So let's talk first about, if I can be frank, the BS we essentially tell ourselves that keeps our finances spiraling more and more out of control. These are the things that I've heard clients say, I've heard friends say, honestly, I've told myself for years. So I want to dive into some of these myths that have been brought up to me over the past couple of years. The first myth is debt is a tool and should be used to build wealth. No, debt adds a considerable risk and is not used by wealthy people nearly as often as we're led to believe. Credit card companies want you to live outside your means. And so this is the lie that they're telling us all the time in the form of points, flyer miles, etc., etc. Not that those things cannot be used in a way that benefits us, but ultimately the people who are benefiting from these kinds of schemes are credit card companies and loan companies. And so trust me, debt is something that, if you're able to avoid it, is something that's always worth avoiding. The points aren't worth it. The second myth, we'll be okay. We're not in that bad of shape. You're in good shape if you are completely debt-free. You're able to invest 20% of your income annually. Are you? Are you able to be investing 20% of your income right now? Are you completely debt-free right now? Is 50% or less of your income spent on rent, mortgage, and living expenses? That leaves 50% for savings and fun. If yes, you're doing good. You don't need to watch any of my modules. If your answer is no, then we still have some work to do. Let's see, next myth. If I loan my money to friends or relatives, I am helping them. No, 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 no. If you are loaning money to your friends and your relatives, you are on the road to destroying your relationship with them. I have not met one friend or family member who's loaned money out to a friend or family member that didn't end up resulting in some kind of major conflict, and oftentimes a break in that whole relationship. It's a huge, huge breach, and it's something that's not encouraged at all. Have you ever heard that phrase, it's better to teach someone to fish than to give them a fish? I think it's an old biblical phrase or something like that. You are not helping someone by lending them money. You're helping them by teaching them and giving them the tools and the resources for building their own financial security. So I hope that answers that question. By co-signing on a loan, I'm helping a friend or relative. Same deal. Basically, if someone's needing a co-signer on a loan, it means that they do not have good enough credit yet. So be ready to repay the whole loan pretty much by yourself. And again, you may not have to, but you have to prepare yourself for the possibility that that's a possibility. I hate to break it to you, but that loved one, they're not so good with money if they're asking you for some help. It's not personal. They may honestly not be trying to screw you over. They're not trying to take advantage of you. They really do need help. But there's a reason that bank wants a cosigner. If your friend or relative does not have a good reputation for paying back their debt. So do not get yourself in that type of situation unless you're really ready to pay for it all in full. Let's see, what's next? Cash advance, payday loans, rent to own, title pawning, tote the note car lots are needed to help lower income people to get ahead. No, no, no. So these are all examples of how lending companies like to rip people off. They are designed to take advantage of lower income people, and they benefit the owners making these loans. Again, this is smart people taking advantage of average people who cannot do the math. Do not be one of those people. Next myth, car payments are a way of life. You'll always have one. Stay away from car payments by driving reliable used cars. And you know that the average millionaire actually drives like a Ford. Often they spend very little money on investing in vehicles because cars are just constant depleting value. Leasing a car is what sophisticated people do. Again, the car lease is the most expensive way to obtain access to a vehicle. Cars drop in value as soon as you drive them off the lot. And think about it. What if you got into an accident and your car was totaled? Now you still owe all of those payments, even though now you don't have a car. On top of that, now you need to buy a new one. So it's not worth it. Don't do it. If you can buy a cheaper, inexpensive, beat-up car and drive it for a few years while you save some money. That is so much better than leasing a car. Let me see. People will judge me based on my car. If I don't drive a nice one, people will think less of me. Again, the average millionaire drives a 2-year-old or older car, many times a used car with no payments. Many celebrities driving these fancy cars that you see on TV, they do not own those cars. They're being paid to advertise for those cars. They are getting paid to drive around in this fancy car. They go home and they still use their 4-door sedan. Others do own some fancy cars because owning fancy cars is their hobby, and they paid for those cars in cash because they saved their money, they saved their pennies, they budgeted, and they were able to build wealth so that they could afford this hobby. But for the most part, the average millionaire still drives around in Fords and Hondas. And you should get a credit card to build your credit. No, just don't. It's not worth it. If you budget and finance correctly, you don't need a credit card except for maybe to rent a car or when you're on a vacation and you just pay that off immediately. Then you can pay for everything else in cash in full. It is possible to live without credit cards, and this is a huge thing our generation has just decided is normal, and it's not. It is normal. It doesn't necessarily mean it's good for our finances. We tend to think of credit cards as like monopoly money. It's fake money, and we don't realize how it impacts our finances constantly trying to pay back credit cards. Let's see, a debit card has more risk than a credit card. Nope, this is also not true. And where in the world did you hear this? I don't know who wrote this. Make sure your teenager gets a credit card so he or she will learn to be more financially responsible with money. Getting a credit card for your teen is an excellent way to teach them financial irresponsibility. Teens are now the #1 target of credit card companies right now. If you want to teach your teenager how to be more responsible, have them get a job, not with you. Have them begin saving all their money for the extras, going out with friends, birthday gifts, extra clothes, going to the movies, the things that they don't need but they want, etc., etc. When they don't have enough money, you also don't help them with some of those things. There's nothing like some natural consequences to help your teenager prioritize their spending. I think I had my first paying job when I was about 12 years old. I recommend starting children's allowances around the age of 7 years old. Not to take care of chores. Those should be assumed in order to live in your house. Children need to know that you have responsibilities when you live in a home. But the extras, going out of their way to help you guys with something that isn't their responsibility, something that wouldn't usually be a chore that they would usually be doing, and helping a sibling or helping you with something around the house. Those types of things are great for kids. But no, you do not want to give your kids or your teenagers who are still kids credit cards. I could go on and on about that, but I'll move on. I have too many expenses. It will take years for me to get out of debt. Maybe it will take years, let's be honest here, but you have no choice, and there are no quick solutions. I'm sorry, unless you figure out how to make a lot more money or you get a really amazing job that pays you a lot more money. It's really just hard work and discipline that helps you pay down debt. But you can do it. You can do it, so I don't want you to feel overwhelmed. Money is a number, debt is a number, and you just have to set a game plan. Filing bankruptcy is a way out. No. Bankruptcy on your record could impact you in so many ways you couldn't even imagine. So no, just don't. I'm not going to even discuss this with you. Don't file for bankruptcy. Playing the lotto and other forms of gambling will make you rich. It's worth the risk. No. So the lotto and Powerball are ways in which our economy take advantage of the poor and misinformed. Again, the beneficiaries of these collections take advantage of people who cannot do the math. If you think about it, go to Vegas or take a look around. They're making plenty of money off of suckers in hopes for a break. So just don't be one of those guys. It's $1 here, it's $3 here, it's $10 there, and that stuff adds up. Obviously, Vegas is doing just fine. So yes, gambling is not known for being an efficient way of building wealth for anybody. And I think that was the last one. I really had an awesome quote from Dave Ramsey, and I put it on your worksheet. But I love this quote because it really hits home. He says, "We don't buy the things we don't need with the money we don't have to impress the people we don't like." So from that perspective, I really need to be thinking about how I'm spending my money and how I'm managing my life. So I hope those were helpful, and if you have any other questions about things you've been told about money that I don't answer throughout these modules, feel free to shoot me an email. All right. So are you ready for this? Let's pretend you're on board and ready to do this. So let's talk about the action steps we'll discuss in the next few modules. The first action step will be getting your lifestyle under control. The second one will be focused on setting up your emergency fund and what all that means. You'll have that backup system. The third action step will focus on getting you out of debt in the order of what's most important to least important. There's this trick to paying off debt a little bit faster by prioritizing your debt in a certain way. So whether you have credit cards, car loans, house loans, school loans, this can be done. Action step number 4 will be focused on paying your future self. We'll discuss retirement, we'll discuss 401ks, setting yourself up so that you know your future is taken care of. And you may already have some of these things, but we'll also talk about what kind of investing you want to be putting towards these types of things so that you really have the life you want later. And finally, we will talk in action step number 5 about having some fun. What do you want your life to be like? What are some of your financial goals for yourself? What are your life goals for yourself? And how much would those things cost? So we'll get into that later.